Morning, everyone. How we doing? Sammy United People's TV here with another fantastic show lined up after another fantastic performance from United. You can see what I've written down there, right? Last night kind of felt like Groundhog Day. That was a performance, certainly in Europe, that we have seen before under Erik Ten Hag in a week where we needed to see it. I mean, we got a reaction. We were 2-0 up. And I'm not sure if you felt the same as me. When United went 2-0 up, my immediate thought wasn't game, set, match. My immediate thought was, don't do it again. And they did it again. And we're going to run through and speak about that game against Porto. The fallout, the reaction, your thoughts on the players, your thoughts on Erik Ten Hag, his post-match comments, the Rashford substitution, the goals that we scored, the goals that we conceded. And we'll try and get our heads around it. You can't even call this a therapy room anymore. I think we're way past that. All right. But I will try and be as respectful as you can be in the comments. I know there's going to be a lot of charged chat here today, and I will try and answer as many of your questions as I possibly can. Let me say hello to everyone this morning, and then we'll just get straight into the show. Anij, good morning to you. I can see you there. Ant as well. JVD, Josh, you're there too. Carl, as always. Good morning to all of you. Aaron, Daz, we've got Fizz, Halftime Oranges, JC, how you doing, buddy? Lisa, we've got Kevin, Hydro, Teresa, and Mateo. And on Facebook, good morning to you, Matt Frost, how you doing, man? Trevor, Williams, Stephen Lawrence, David, Suraj, and Yusuf. Look, let's waste absolutely no time this morning, and let's just jump into it and speak about that game. Because, look, I said that last night was a game where, in my opinion, the result was important, but the overall collective team response was equally as important. All right? Because, truth be told, the Spurs game before was really important, and we got trounced. We got humiliated. So, to see the reaction from that, well, we needed to see improvement, control, United game management, staying in the game, control, and just everything that we saw yesterday was a repeat of what we've seen last season. Everything that we saw against Spurs, problem-wise, was a repeat of what we saw last season. Both of those games could have been dropped into last season at any point, and they would have matched it. That's the most damning thing I can say, really. It was the same as what we've seen before. And for United to... Look, both goals, I thought were pretty good team moves. Sure, Diogo Costa should have done better with both goals, right? Keeping mistakes. But we created those chances. Rashford, and we'll speak about the Rashford sub a little bit later. Rashford was such a threat, a goal and an assist. And the move for Højlund, it was we went forward, nothing happened, went back to Onana, then went forward again, created it. Højlund, too much power on it, came off the back of Diogo Costa's arm. Really good goals. Yeah, but as soon as that second one went in, and I don't know whether the players even think that, do you reckon, I mean, they must. Because as soon as it went to 2-0 up, I didn't get, as if I'm just speaking about myself personally as a fan, I didn't sit there going, oh yeah, game, set, match, that's sweet. It's all right. I can chill. Sit back now. It's all right. Just get a third when you want. I was sitting there just going, don't do what you've done before. All right? Don't do it. And they did the exact same thing. And I'll tell you one thing that's really, really hurt Erik Ten Hag is using Dalot as an inverted fullback. I was thinking about this before the show, and I'm probably going to do a separate whole video on this. But yeah, I'm going to go down and read some of your comments. I'm not saying because of Dalot. Look, Dalot started he started like 38 games in a row, something like that now, in all competitions. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to speak about how that was a big fundamental of why we were so exposed down that left. And some people are going to be jumping on Marcus Rashford. Sure, he could have tracked back more, but boy, because Dalot was leaving that space because he was being asked to, that's why there was so much space in that channel. I can see down here this morning, everyone please fire in your comments and your questions. Garlic Bread Man, how you doing, dude? You're gifting 10 memberships and JC, you're gifting 5. We're going to get a silent gong. All of you, make sure you join the Discord if you want to sort of speak to like-minded United fans in a sort of safe place. That's what the Discord is there for. Right, let's read some of your comments out. The leader saying started well, then fell apart after Porto started running at our defenders. Physically, we can't cope, never mind mentally. I think the Spurs game was far more of a physical mismatch than what that was last night. Although Samu was an absolute monster and had De Ligt on toast in that game. And even in that game yesterday, Ten Hag was sort of looking towards the players he feels he can trust, and Martinez and De Ligt were so poor that they got taken off, both of them. And everybody thought that was a mad decision, me included at the time, but then Maguire came up with a goal. Cheeto, you're saying Rashford was definitely culpable in these two goals, some of the most languid, defending and tracking. There were others who did even worse, though. And that's probably what I would describe it as. Like, if you want to blame Rashford for not tracking back, in the same way that some people were having a go, like Gary Neville had a go at Rashford for not tracking Van de Ven when he was 10 yards behind him. Whereas Jamie Carragher went after De Ligt saying he was out of position. Well, Ugarte should have spotted it 2 seconds earlier. Mazraoui should have come across. That was just a catalogue of errors. And that's what United were like down the left-hand side yesterday. It was a catalogue of errors. Karen, what are you saying? You're saying fans and media want Ten Hag to drop Rashford and he gets constant criticism for playing him. Takes him off last night because we have another big game on Sunday and gets criticised again. He can't win. Look, Karen, that's one of the strangest substitutions I've ever seen. In a game where Erik Ten Hag knows that a result is needed and he takes off his best attacker in it. I don't think Rashford had completed 90 minutes in like 4 or 5 games before it. It was really in my sort of, I think I've explained this to you before. My mind works in sort of logic and practical. I mean, that's just sort of my thought process. I don't think there was any logic to that substitution of Rashford, given that he was our threat going forward. And look, speaking after the game, Erik Ten Hag said kind of what you thought Erik Ten Hag would say. Said, we will get there. Don't judge us in this moment. Judge us at the end of the season. I said the same last season. We are in a process. It's kind of hard to trust and believe the process when we're just seeing like carbon copy repeats of last season, of how open the midfield was, of just the goals that we conceded. Carbon copy repeats of Man United playing in Europe. All right. I'll go and I'll pull this up. I was going to pull this up later, but I'll pull it up now. Right. Last season, that's the 4th straight European away game where Manchester United have conceded 3 or more goals. And that's not down to individual errors. That's not down to any individual, whatever. It is a clear pattern of how Manchester United set up away from home in European football. I don't know what it is that's different, but as soon as that second half started, it was crazy. It was the chaos football that we've seen so often under Erik Ten Hag. And it's, as I said, you can't put that down to, and this is a game plan. I mean, for the neutral, watching United must be great fun. Watching United as a fan, though, it's almost torturous. As I said, to even be 2-0 up away from home. By the way, Porto, I expected Porto to be better than they were. I think we absolutely allowed them in that game. I don't think that Spurs were just simple. I know United were bad against Spurs, but Spurs were clearly a better team on the day. I don't particularly think that Porto played incredibly well yesterday. I just think that Manchester United was so awful that we allowed them to grow into the game. I'm right. Ten Hag is speaking about the goals that we scored there. Oh, man, where do you start with speaking about that defending yesterday? Where honestly, where do you start? Because Yeah, sure, we had clean sheets. We got, 3 in a row against Southampton, Barnsley, and Crystal Palace. And then we conceded 6 in our last 2 against Spurs and now Porto. Now, Harry Maguire, look, I'm going to speak about Harry Maguire for a second here. Harry Maguire after the game saying, look, it's clearly a mental issue. And we know that. We've known that for some time. And Erik ten Hag and the coaches have known that for some time. At this point, I don't have trust or belief that the coaching staff at Manchester United are capable of helping the mental side of this Manchester United team. And I'm just speaking from my own perspective and my own point of view, right? Harry Maguire last night, man, fair play to that dude. I've never given any player more public criticism than Harry Maguire when he was captain of Manchester United. None. And I think throughout this entire process, Maguire's remained very professional, apart from that stupid old cupping of his ears thing that he did for England. And that was sort of part of the whole, ooh. But Maguire came on last night, proper header, and he's right. It is a mental issue. But last night, by the way, would have been last 2 games, we conceded 6 goals. So it'd be weird for me to praise the goalkeeper. But if we didn't have him in goal against Spurs, 3, 4 1-on-1s that he saved? And last night as well. It would have been significantly worse defensively than what we saw there. And as I said, I want to focus my conversation here for a few minutes on Diogo Dalot. I'm going to go and read out some super chats you've sent in, and then I want to speak about Diogo Dalot. All right. Akash saying, wonder if Erik ten Hag is feeling the heat from Ineos. I mean, of course he is. Of course he is. That goes without saying. Ineos aren't just going to be sitting by and going, oh, don't worry, we'll just wait until the end of the season before we make a decision. They won't do that. Prominent, you're saying Ten Hag's tactics is exposing Dalot's weaknesses and Martinez seems lost because the space he needs to cover is too much. After being 2-0 up, a low block is necessary. Well, you've pretty much spoken about what I'm going to speak about there next with Dalot, so I'll mention that next. Even saying Ten Hag took Rashford off because we were winning 2-0. Well, no, it was 2-2 by the time he went off, so that's wrong. Captain T1, you're saying problem with Ten Hag is he lacks accountability in crucial situations during his time at United. 2 repetitive post-match. He's certainly becoming repetitive post-match now. And I think it's starting to grate. Anna's saying Ten Hag's talking about trophies and processes. I don't know. Look, with Dalot, as I said, I'm going to probably do a video on this in the international break because I think there are 2 key major tactical errors that Erik ten Hag has made that have sort of kind of defined how Manchester United have played football in the last 2 seasons. And Dalot being the inverted left back is one of those 2 things. Okay? We all know why the inverted fullback exists in this Ten Hag system. If you don't, let me quickly explain it to you. The concept of it is to get that fullback to drop inside and almost act like a second number 6. So in the build-up, you've got an extra body centrally. And then you get your defenders to split, move across, and you've got Martinez, De Ligt, and then Mazraoui in a back 3. And then you've got Casemiro, who will be number 6 yesterday, and Dalot alongside him. And then you've got more of a better structure to build up through your defence. The concept of the inverted fullback is to make you better at building out from the back, which we have not been at any real point under Erik ten Hag. Crystal Palace was probably going to be one of the only examples I can point to and say, that's when it worked. But with Dalot playing as that inverted fullback, there's never an overlap down the left-hand side. And Marcus Rashford, or whoever's playing on the left, is constantly doubled up on. Was it 2-0 at half time? I swear it was 2. Have I completely forgotten what the game was last night? They scored 2 in like a few minutes. Why are people making me question myself? Sometimes you read the chat too much. Oh, I can't even find it. No, they scored in the 27th and the 34th minute. Why do people make me go crazy sometimes? Jeez, man. But yeah, it's that the concept of Diogo Dalot inverting was to make us better at playing out from the back with the ball, which just hasn't happened at any point this season. But by doing that and Dalot inverting and kind of going centrally forward, last night, right, was a really poor game for both De Ligt and Martinez. And they had to cover so much. Well, particularly Martinez was left isolated in the channel a lot. And Porto realised that. It's playing against United now, unfortunately. And by the way, Villa will do the same. So very much expect Villa to be attacking down their right-hand side against us. Because they know that Dalot's going to invert as the fullback. And they know therefore, that the space on the overlap is going to be abundant. I'd be surprised if it was it Leon Bailey playing on the right-hand side and Man United not being able to do anything to stop him going down there if the inverted fullback continues. And yeah, it's just... See, Simmons I disagree with that completely, saying both United's goals were lucky. How? What, because Diogo Costa keepers make mistakes? Fine. Doesn't mean it's lucky. Rashford drove through 2 players, fired a fizzing shot in, the keeper couldn't stop it. The same thing happened with Højlund, and that was a really good move. Yeah, the defensive shape last night was just... It was all over the shop, man. And it was not a surprise, and that's what I said in my match reaction. It wasn't a surprise. I'm not in the slightest am I shocked or surprised that United came out, looked good, and scored 2 goals. Not at all. I almost expected there to be a positive response. And then when he went 2-0, not one part of me was shocked or surprised that we conceded. And as soon as that went in, I was like, just don't do it again. Don't do it again. You've done it again. You've done the exact same thing again. And when it comes to Ineos having... Because what Ineos need at this point in time is trust and belief in what Erik Ten Hag is working towards. And for me, a fair amount of that trust and belief has been eroded by these last 2 games. And I'm just speaking the truth about how I'm viewing this as a fan. In that game against Spurs was an opportunity for Manchester United to go toe-to-toe with the team who was on the exact same points. A bit of a shaky start to the season, but it would have been a big statement win for United to overcome an exciting attacking Spurs team. And we didn't. And we got trounced. And then, right, okay, so we've got 2 massive games coming up here. And I want to see Manchester United with a response, a collective team response that they are just in control of, that it's measured. And instead it was the complete, utter chaos that we saw last season in European football. So I just don't... Look, from me, as I said, quite a lot of that trust has been eroded by how we performed in these last 2 games. And last night was a defensive... You can speak about individual errors. You can speak about Rashford not tracking back. Man, it was just a collective farce, really, United. To go from 2-0 up and in a real measure of control. First 5 minutes, Porto came out and... It was what happens away from home in Europe. Crowds G'd up. They looked dangerous. But when United settled on the ball and we built through, We looked good for that 15-minute period, but then I don't know whether we invited them onto us, but it's just nothing worked from that point on, really. Sam with a strange super chat here saying, isn't Ineos supposed to be overseeing the tactics? No, man. That's down to the manager. The concept of the game model, the concept of not losing vision of what we want Manchester United to be, that's what Omar Barada is in charge of. That's what Dan Ashworth is overseeing. And Jason Wilcox is more your man, your day-to-day man who's going to be at the training ground and speaking about the game model. But no, in terms of how the team is playing, that's down to the coaches. That's down to Ten Hag, Van Nistelrooy, Hake, Andreas Georgian, and the coaches on the training ground. And it's just, I don't know. I'm going to go and read some of your comments out down here now, all right? Craig is saying, Sam, I believe this team needs to stop overcomplicating things. Drop the inverted fullback, drop the front press, and just get the basics right, hold shape, and string some good performances together. Well, Craig, you're kind of preaching to the choir there. But we had that, was it last season where, if I remember correctly, we went away to Burnley and Ten Hag was under a lot of pressure. That was where Hannibal started. Johnny Evans with the ball over the top to Bruno. We won 1-0. We kept a clean sheet, and it was a sort of backs against the wall performance. Sat there, sat tight, sat in shape, and we got it. But then we didn't build on that going forward. And I think that's just the thing with this United team. Even if we were to do that, even if we were to really sort of close up shop, go compact, like we did against City in the FA Cup final, it worked. And that's probably because every player was G'd up. I spoke yesterday about how I thought the individuals would probably have a bit more in this game about Bruno. I spoke about Delo, spoke about Casemiro. That didn't really work. Half-time orange is saying, why is everyone piling on Rashford? It's a set-up issue. Porto's third came down on left 5 minutes after Garnacho's came on. Off. Sorry, Garnacho came on. Was that Rashford? We will speak about Rashford next. Sheikh saying, what's the purpose of the additional 2 coaches if we still don't have a play style? The additional 2 coaches weren't supposed to come in and all of a sudden Man United were going to be playing brand new football because we had the same manager. Van Nistelrooy was there partly as an attacking coach, replacing Benny McCarthy to help improve, and we've not been scoring enough this season. We've also not had our main striker start until yesterday, and he scored. Akash saying, Sam, why are you surprised we were open in the middle? Eriksen and Casemiro played there. Erik Ten Hag has spent £50 million this summer on signing Manuel Ugarte, who is there to secure the midfield a bit more. But it was a tactical choice to overlook Ugarte and to play with the expansive concept of, I'd rather Casemiro and Eriksen be there just in case they can get that ball over the top, just in case they can get a ball through to one of our attackers. And that was a conscious tactical choice from Erik Ten Hag to do that instead of adding a little bit of security, because as I've shown you there, as we've seen so often before from Manchester United in European football, where is it? Security is not the option. Last night was the play style. Very much Erik Ten Hag's approach in European football is you score 3, we'll score 4. It's very much a just score more than the opposition. It's not about sitting tight, sitting compact. It's saying that, look, it's not as if it's been that much better in Europe in home football either. We're just, I don't know. Enough said about Casemiro, man. I don't need to go in on Casemiro. Look, the Manchester Evening News coming out with this morning. Oh, Erik Ten Hag could be sacked. Oh yeah, great. Thanks for the news update, Manchester Evening News. You've nailed that one. Of course he could be. It's not a news story. That's just obvious. And look, I want to speak about this. Because as I said, look, that really was one of the strangest subs I think I've seen. Was taking Marcus Rashford off. That is what Erik Ten Hag has said, okay? He said, Rashford out. Again, we have to rotate. On Sunday, we have another hard game. We need players to be fit and fresh. We had to play Garnacho. We go quickly to Villa. They have an extra day to recover. So Ten Hag saying that Rashford coming off was merely a rotational choice. Does that mean it was preordained? I don't really know. But then it goes a little bit further than this, right? And Erik Ten Hag said this. He goes, I think over the left side, definitely we didn't defend well tonight. And Marcus also played a part in this. But as I say, it had to do with Garnacho, and I wanted him on the pitch. Nothing against Rashford. Now, we've all been calling, isn't this weird? We've all been calling for rotation as to be one of the key parts of development for Erik Ten Hag this season to enable this squad to be able to cope with the physical demands of a 50-60 game season without fading towards the end of it. So it's almost hilarious that we're now moaning about the idea that he's rotated someone, but it just didn't feel like rotation. You know that the pressure on your job is there again. You've been in this position before and you felt it and you've come through it. And at a time when you're 2-2 away from home in Europe, you take off the player who scored a goal and got an assist and easily has been the player that just Porto could not deal with. And for anybody down here in the comments that sort of, and I can see that some of you are, you sort of say, well, Rashford didn't track back, so he was at fault for the goals. No. Was he part of it? Yeah. Could he have tracked back more? Absolutely. Could Delo have covered more space? Well, no, not really, because he's inverted as a fullback. That's what he's been asked to do. Could Martinez cover all that space on his own? I don't really think that many or any defenders, you need like a Van der Ven to be able to cover that much space on your own. And Gareth, that's what I mean. You can damned if you do, damned if you don't, in our fans' eyes, it seems. But come on, man. As I said, Rashford hadn't completed 90 minutes in like 4 or 5 consecutive games. That's the sharpest that we've seen Marcus Rashford look. He's been progressively improving, but it's just, as I said, in my logical mind, that doesn't match up. It's just it's one of the strangest subs I think I've ever seen. Now Garnacho, if I remember correctly, I think he had 8 shots in the second half, so it wasn't as if Garnacho was a threat. But it should absolutely have been Garnacho for Ahmed. Oleo saying, you can't please everyone, Sam. Ten Hag was attacked for not rotating. He starts rotating. It's a strange decision. There's rotating and then there's taking off your best player halfway through a game where he scored a goal and an assist, and Man United's attacking threat pretty much disappears for the next 20, 30 minutes afterwards until Porto sat back into the last 15 minutes and then United pushed forward. Evans and Maguire came on and we scored a goal from the corner. That didn't feel like rotation to me yesterday. And maybe I'm looking into it too much. But it was just a really, really odd call. It was very strange, man. I couldn't get my head around it. Now, where's all your heads at after that game going into Villa? Right, if all of this has sort of stemmed from the Liverpool game, hasn't it? Prior to the Liverpool game, United had had a mixed start to the season, some positives, some negatives, and it was up and down. Was it third game of the season? So was it after Fulham and then Brighton? I think was Liverpool, if I remember correctly. And then we got shredded against Liverpool because of individual mistakes from Casemiro, and we've hardly seen Casemiro until now. And then since that Liverpool game, we've had Southampton. It was a good game. Barnsley was a very enjoyable game. It was only Barnsley, but it was good to beat a team 7-0. It felt nice. Crystal Palace, frustration in the first half, We look good. No goals. Second half, boop, switched off mentally. Palace came in. And then after that game, we've had Spurs and now Porto, where in two different kind of styles have been sort of nightmare games. For the game against Spurs, 1-0 down after 3 minutes, heads were gone. Straight away, you saw it, how we were playing out from the back. Then Bruno's red card, it meant there was never a way back in that second half, ever. I mean, we were getting beaten easily prior to the red card, so let alone what's going to happen after. And I'll speak about Bruno next. There's a couple more players I want to speak about. And then going away to Porto, where, it's not going to be an easy game. That's the hardest game we've got in the Europa League group stage, league stage, whatever the bloody hell it's called, don't care. And we go and do that performance again that was very reminiscent of Copenhagen or Bayern Munich away or Galatasaray home or away, or 4, 5, 6 different games in European football last season that we saw. It just history repeated itself. Casemiro and Eriksen back in the starting 11. 2 different centre-backs, but massively exposed by the spaces that midfield leaves them. The inverted foot, it was just... Nothing was a surprise yesterday. And it was just an extension of what we didn't want to see. That's my summary, I suppose, of Man United right now. I'm Legend is saying that's a good film, by the way. Going to Villa Park, and if Ten Hag gets Delo to invert, we will be shredded on the letter. We will be, man. But will Ten Hag give up on that? Because so far, Ten Hag has been... Last season, for example, Ten Hag was very stubborn to the system. 1 number 6, 2 number 8s. Stuck with it, even though it was just the mounting evidence that it just was not working in the Premier League. And I think he'll stick to the inverted fullback. Even though it's just... The concept of it is to make us better at building out from the back, but it's just making us so much weaker out of possession, and teams are just exploiting that space so easily. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know how to set up against Manchester United now, because that whole left flank, Rashford isn't the greatest at tracking back. And some games, I always remember Arsenal last year. When Rashford scored? That game with the Garnacho. Was it the game with the Garnacho? I think it was. And I saw Rashford was tracking back. He was pelting it up and down the line. I've lost a lot of trust and belief, personally, in Erik Ten Hag and this process, this concept that we should be judging at the end of the season. The way that things have gone, the way that things are going, I don't think Erik Ten Hag will get until the end of the season. I'm going to go and read some of your comments out. There's a couple of super chats, and I'll go back and I'll go and read some normal comments out as well. Would have taken a draw last night for kickoff, says Alex. Yeah, I would have. And then you're 2-0 up away from home, and you're feeling this could be a moment of development and progress, and then a draw all of a sudden doesn't look like development and progress. A draw looks like you've not thrown it all away, but a last-minute header has saved you from throwing it all away. And you're saying Villa, rapid, physical, got goals. Yeah, look. And they've just beaten Bayern, their biggest result, really, in 41 years. It's going to be... We're there for the taking. And they are there. They are ready for it. Nuruddin, you're saying it's sad. Look, even Nuruddin, the man who's calmness personified, really. Saying it's sad, but I can't stand Erik. How he sets them up in game management reactions, his starting lineups, he's just not the guy anymore. And you are... As I said, the measure of calmness, typically, if you're saying that, kind of says a lot. Sam, you're saying, I feel like Ten Hag won't listen to outside opinions and will sink the ship in order to prove himself right tactically. I mean, I don't know how him sinking the ship will prove himself right tactically. It's surely the opposite. And as I said, I'm during the international break, I think I'm going to do a deeper dive and video into this. But in my opinion, there are 2 fundamentals that have been the reason for Ten Hag's lack of progress at Manchester United. Number 1 is his decision in the second season to switch us to a 1 number 6 and 2 number 8 system and sign Mason Mount. Because that was just, we were steadfast in that style the whole season, basically. And it was just did not work. That's number one. Number two, I think, is the decision to switch to an inverted fullback and bring that into the Premier League. And in Europe. It hasn't worked in Europe either. It just hasn't worked. Now, is that down to the technical qualities of the players? Wherever it may be, those two things, in my opinion, are the two tactical reasons why Man United just haven't developed. And it just... So what, if Manchester United get a win against Villa, I want Man United to beat Villa. I want Man United to win every damn game. And I hate this. I remember this under Solskjaer. I remember this under Mourinho and everybody. It gets towards when it feels like towards the end of a manager, and then you see genuine United, or maybe not genuine United fans, just, I can't wait for United to lose so we can go. It's like, I'll just piss off, man. The way we played last night was a choice from Erik ten Hag. That was a game plan. That was an approach. And it was the fundamental reason why the chaos existed. As Harry Maguire explained, the mentality problems, which we've had for a long time, which is, it's almost like part of the culture of the club now. The mental fragility of Manchester United. You write a whole damn book on it. Be an awful book, but you could. That's how ingrained it is in this club. That's how much, like, 2-0 last night, I was like, just don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, right. Okay. Right. You've done it. Yeah, you've done it again. All right. Okay. Right. You've done it again. Ah, brilliant. And yeah, I had to pull that up again. Yeah, Jonathan, I agree with that. Unfortunately, like, Martinez has just not been himself this season. One thing I would say here, right? One thing I would say. This Manchester United squad is significantly better than the results that we are currently getting. When it reached the sort of the end game with Mourinho or Solskjaer or anything, right? And again, I'm just speaking personal opinion here. When we reached the ends of the run for these managers, I looked at their squads and I was like, oh, shit me. We need a new player there. 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 He needs to go. He needs to go. He needs to go. Right? I don't personally feel that way with this current squad that we have. Is this squad complete? I'm not going to even slightly suggest that it's complete. But this squad is significantly better than the football that we're playing, than the results we're currently getting. So it's not a case of if Ten Hag is replacing me. As I said, if Ten Hag is replaced, I would be very, very surprised if it's anything else apart from Ruud van Nistelrooy in the interim. Maybe until the end of the season. Probably until the end of the season. But this squad is much, much better than we're currently seeing. Right? Nuruddin, you're saying, I never want United to lose. I hope we win everything, even if it's with Erik, but I can't see Erik winning anymore. Not with these tactics. And I think that's kind of where I've reached after that Porto game. Yeah, I've lost trust in, if you want to call it the process. Dudley, you're saying give him until Christmas. It's still too early. I understand the panic. And look, I completely understand that point of view, but I would ask you why you feel that is the case. Like, what do you feel will change or shift in our current circumstances? Would it be the fact that Luke Shaw, I mean, yeah, good luck trying to rely on Luke Shaw, all right? There's no point having a conversation about him. Would you hope that Ugate's got a bit more fitness? Well, Ugarte wasn't even started away at Porto, so you can't really look at them. Would you hope that Martinez comes into better form? Maybe, but ultimately, it's kind of the only thing that would switch anything is if Erik ten Hag goes, just screws up any plans, right? And says, sod that, this is where we're going now. And we have a bit of a pivot and a U-turn. And that's not something I think would happen, personally. Aaron saying, do you have a video on Rude as a manager? There are 2 videos on Rude on the channel, Aaron. One is a bit of a tactical look at his approach. And also we did a deep dive on Rude. And they're the only videos that we're going to do on Rude. So you can check out the channel. Just type Van Nistelrooy, United People. In fact, you just go on the homepage on United People TV. You'll see them both there. One's in the mini docs playlist, and one is in the deep dives playlist. I'm just going to go and read some more of your comments out down here. Aaron saying, watch us hammer Villa now. Look, man, even the most optimistic version of myself can't. Aston Villa are a seriously good team right now. Even if they weren't banging form, which they are, even if they hadn't had that result midweek, which they did, they are a team that is just consistently getting better. Last season, finishing in the top 4, really strong summer. Duran's coming through. They are just a team that is connected from top to bottom, on and off the pitch, and you're seeing the results as a consequence. And Unai Emery has done an amazing job, came into a team that was near relegation and has been backed and supported by an excellent structure, and we're playing them away. Like, even if United were banging form, right, and we were going to Villa Park with their form, I would be worried, let alone with the quite obvious spaces that we leave, with the real gaps that we have in defence and midfield. It wouldn't be a miracle. I'm not going to go as far as saying a miracle, but the odds are very much stacked against. For us to beat Villa, who are an extremely, someone's just put it down there. Villa are a very, very well coached team. They know their shape. In and out of possession, they know exactly where all their teammates are and where everybody needs to be. And then we've got Man United, who right now, it doesn't really know if they can tell their arse from their elbow. And there's more individuals that we need to speak about after that game yesterday, right? And like Bruno, I think you all know full well how much I've supported Bruno, how much I've backed Bruno. Bruno yesterday, if you look at that second yellow, first thing I will say is he didn't touch the player. However, you're playing in European football. You've got a yellow card. And what was it? 80th minute? I don't know when it was. Like, the game has gone on. And you give the referee a decision to make. As soon as your foot goes that high, the whole crowd G's up. You give him a decision to make. Had Bruno not been booked with a first, it would have just been another yellow card. But he was already on a yellow card. And it was just a foolish decision from Bruno to go in for a challenge that high. The emotional side of Bruno's game has become a massive weakness in this season so far. The playing with your sort of heart on your sleeve, that's always been Bruno's way. But it was just a silly decision yesterday. That's all it was. It was just a silly decision. On a yellow card, you shouldn't be going in with your foot that high. And I think Bruno's maybe what's happened this week. And I actually think this happened against Spurs as well. The reputation preceded the decision by the referee, Chris Kavanagh, to pull out the red card for Bruno against Spurs. Pigeoneros is saying, throwing away a 2-0 lead is the new United way. Man, I can't wait for us to be good again. When we are good again, it's not a case of if, ladies and gents, we will be. And I don't know when. No, Omar Barad is saying by 2028, good. That's what I'm aiming for. Optimistic. But when we are good, I'm going to be insufferable for non-United fans. I will tell you that. I can't wait for that. Alex is saying, if sacked, are fans happy to write off the season? Would be no different if Ten Hag stayed. Any interim will have problems. Ragnick had. If Ineos can... I think that's a little bit different, Alex, because when, if I remember correctly anyway, when Solskjaer was sacked and Ragnick came in, were we speaking about the take? Was that when the takeover, not takeover, that the concept of Man United being sold was being floated and John Murtough was still making... I don't really want to go back to that, man. I don't even want to go back to that. Kat, you're saying it wasn't a red, Sam. Yes, the foot was high, but he didn't touch the plate. It wasn't a red. It wasn't a red. I think it was a high foot. And in a European game away from home, you're probably going to get a yellow card for it. And he did. He got a second yellow. It's just a little bit foolish, I think, from him to do that. Dudley saying Bruno should use his emotions like Rooney. Use the rage and passion to your benefit. Oh, man, the rage of Rooney was like this burning fire that just gave him an extra 5% in every duel, in every tackle. You remember when Rooney sort of kind of leveled out a little bit as he matured? He got a little bit older. And just a little bit of that rage left him. A little bit of Rooney left with it. I don't think Bruno should have given the ref a decision to make. I mean, I don't know why anybody... Why in the world are you comparing that to Nani against Madrid? Man, that is proper apples and oranges. Nani against Real Madrid that was him looking over for the ball, foot hit the chest, straight red, off. This is Bruno in whatever it was, the 80th minute, going in with a high foot. It was just silly. It was a silly choice. Now something. This is a bit weird, right? Højlund after the game on Instagram. There has been... You can tell that United fans are on edge when this is offending them. But also at the same time, it's like, kind of read the room. I think it's... I'm lean more towards the former. Like, Højlund's been frustrated and injured all season. He scored in his first start. Yeah. I suppose this is kind of why players need media training. Because it's so... The relationship with fans is very delicate, isn't it? How quickly a relationship between a fan base and a player... I'm not saying that this has, by the way. I'm just saying, like, just in general. Like, players can make or break relationships quite easily with fan bases because of how much access they have to the fan base because of social media now. But it was good to see Højlund start yesterday. It was good to see Højlund getting a goal. And we've missed that all season, really. Yeah. I think people are going to go... As I said, United fans are on edge right now. We all are on edge. And it feels... Last night was... Look, it could have gone worse for United last night, right? We could have lost, first of all. Second of all, it could have been a similar performance that we saw against Spurs where United got trounced from the get-go. Loads of space, 3-0 down. Oh, my God, everything's going completely Pete Tong. However, what was... I wouldn't say equally as devastating, but it kind of feels like it a little bit, was the fact that we had a 2-goal lead. We did the hard work. We created the chances and we scored the goals. Yet, even from that position of where we've actually released a bit of the pressure and we've actually got some control of the game, that the exact same story played out. The exact same performance from that point that we saw last season, that we didn't want to see again, happened again. And when it comes to progress and when it comes to development, to have 2 games back-to-back, which can be carbon copies of games that happened multiple times last season, is the last thing that Ten Hag needed to show Ineos. the concept of this game model developing? No. And Ugarte was left on the bench yesterday for Casemiro and Eriksen to give United more ability to maybe pass the ball forward, transition quicker. It kind of feels like Ten Hag has to pull out a sort of an FA Cup final level surprise, really. And presumably United will use that shape. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. In the FA Cup final against City, was Delot inverting as a fullback? I don't particularly remember him doing it. I'm not saying he didn't do it at points, but I don't particularly remember him doing it as much as he's doing it this season. But I would imagine that we would see that system. The 4-2-4, compact, and just hit on the counter, which is exactly what we needed to do last night at 2-0 up. If we had gone into that shape against City, if we had gone into that shape last night at 2-0 up, that we played against City and the players knew what they were doing, oh man, we would have easily won that game. We would have cut the spaces. We were 2-0 up. We didn't have to take any risks. We didn't need to leave any spaces anywhere. We'd done the hard work. My God, it is Friday, John. I completely forgot. It is not Friday vibes. It is not Friday vibes. I tell you what, doing this is my first weekend where I'm not drinking. Got 10 weeks to do. That's bad. I'm going to read some more of your comments out down here and then we'll end on the map. We'll end on a positive note. I'll call it a positive note. Ashley is saying, we as fans want our attackers to have confidence, but when they celebrate, we want to criticise them. Doesn't matter if we lost, our strikers need that goal. Yeah, as I said, I think people are looking into it a little bit too much simply because everything is offensive after that loss. That's the way I look at that. It's good to see Haaland score again. Tyler saying, Sam, whatever the result is against Villa, I still believe he should be sacked. I wonder if Ineos, we can't know the inner workings of Barada, of Ashworth, of all of them. But I know from my own personal perspective as a fan, I've lost quite a lot of trust in Ten Hag and belief in the system and the process over these last couple of games. Seriously, what a weekend. What a weekend to start not drinking. God damn. Anyway, let's end on a map, all right? Anybody who's tuning in, Ryan, you watching from Porto? My man. Is it still raining out there? I know it was a lock-in after the game. Fair play to anybody who went out after that abysmal journey. All the fog. Basically, anybody who was flying into Porto couldn't land because of the fog, and they were getting diverted to like Barcelona, all over the shop. Look, it's map day, all right? Fire in where you're watching from, okay? City and the country, and I'll get a few of you added onto the map. But it doesn't feel good for Erik Ten Hag. It really doesn't. And I'm gonna try and explain that in a more succinct way with my little short videos I do at lunchtime today. All right. Thomas, you're watching from Mullingar in Ireland. Where's that? Is that west or east? Mullingar. Oh, Westmeath. Nice. I need to get... Every time I do this, I'm like, I need to go travelling again. But I can't. I'm trying to buy a house. Leamington, New Zealand. Waikato. On the map you go. Who was that from? That was Loza. Welcome from New Zealand, dude. And one more here. We've got Ladison watching from Strommen in Norway. In Lillestrøm. Cool. How many points are we up to now? 6. You can't see it over there. Let me zoom in on that. Look at this. 684 different map points. Yeah, how cool that is. I think that it really is. I mean, it's about the coolest thing you're going to see today because ultimate, I don't even need to speak about that one. I don't know what we can see That's a lie. I know exactly what we can see against Villa that would change my mind, but I just don't have the trust or belief that I will see it. Let's find out. All right, my starting 11 I'll do tomorrow. My lunchtime video today is going to be on what I saw yesterday and just kind of my personal opinion, all right? Thank you all for tuning in on what has been another struggle of a week. I hope that you've not enjoyed the shows, but I hope it's given you a space to come and talk with other United fans about United, even if we are awful. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll be here on Monday morning with a live show. I'll be here with a video today. I'll be here on Saturday with the starting 11 for Villa. And I'll be here on Sunday with the Villa reaction. Take it easy, everyone. Have a good weekend.